What's going on, everybody? Mike Brown here, and I wanted to welcome you all to my new podcasting course, How to Create a Dope Podcast and Stay Consistent. So, if you guys are not familiar with who I am Mike Brown. I started the podcast, The Art of Letting Go. I've been doing this for about 5 years now, and I started my podcast because therapy was too expensive and I needed another outlet. I didn't have the opportunity to take a class. I just had to learn on the fly, learn on the go. So, with this course, what I would like to do is to show you how to create a dope podcast and stay consistent with it. In this course, you will be learning about the different types of podcasts, how to format your show, recording and editing, where to host your podcast and release it. And also, I'll share some valuable tips and tools that I've learned along the way. So, if you were looking to take a course on how to monetize your podcast or how to be a podcast millionaire, this might not be the one. You might need to check in with Joe Rogan. But if you want to learn how to make a valuable podcast that's valuable to your listeners and to yourself, and how to continue to make it past, you know, the first 5 episodes, this is the class for you. So if you guys are ready, we'll get started. All right. So now that we've gone through what this course is going to be about, I want to get you guys started with podcasting. So, some of you may be a little further ahead than some of the information I'm going to share, but I really want to make sure that everybody has all of this so you are successful in what you're going to do. So, just so you know, there are a couple of different styles of podcasting. Um, there's no right or wrong way of how to do this. I feel like within my show, I combine a few different styles, but I will share with you all what some of those are. So, the first style being a solo host. A solo host is no guest, no anybody on the show. It's just a host and a microphone. And I use that sometimes when I'm doing my reflections on my show. The second style that I would also say that we do is chat casting. So a chat cast is kind of like a group of friends that are just having a conversation, shooting the shit. We started out that way when I would bring guests on like that yoga dude and Crenshaw, and we would just have conversations about life. And those can be really cool. I would say that's probably like the most popular format. I'm sure you probably hear a lot of shows where it's just a group of friends, kind of like the Joe Budden podcast, just group of friends talking. The third style of podcasting is interviews. So that's when you start looking for guests, bringing people in, um, asking questions, sometimes doing a little research. I started to do research for my interviews on my podcast. The fourth style of podcasting is like a reported, the fourth The fourth style of podcasting is a reported narrative. So if you've ever listened to a show like NPR or something like that, where there is a narrative to a story that is being told within the podcast, the reported narrative is kind of like NPR, where someone's telling a story. It could be short or long, but you know, the idea of that is just basically storytelling, but factual storytelling. There's also fictional storytelling, which, and not necessarily fictional, but we'll say like an audio drama, kind of like um, my friend James Lott Jr., who does multiple audio dramas, and they are scripted podcasts. So the difference between the reported narrative and the fiction podcast would be, you know, the fiction is scripted and the audio narrative is kind of like a news report, you know. And last but not least, there is a podcasting hosting, and we'll get into hosting later, but there is a company called Anchor where you can create your own radio show. So if you ever had interest in doing a radio show, they are partnered with Spotify and they are able to add music to your show. So there's multiple styles that you can choose from as you get into what type of show you want to do and who your show is for. Then you'll get a clear idea of what type of show you want to do. So going into what type of show you would like to do, I think the first thing to think about is, what is your topic? What are you passionate about? What do you want to talk about? The beautiful thing about podcasting is there is enough space for everybody. You know, we could be talking about music and have two totally different perspectives of what we are even speaking on the subject. We can be viewing it from so many different ways. So I would say, don't worry about if someone is doing what you're doing. I mean, there's a million mental health podcasts. There's a million gossip shows. There's a million of everything. So don't let that discourage you from creating what you want to create, because your perspective, only you have it. So when you think about what your show is about, also take into consideration, who is your show for? Who is your audience? Because that's going to play a big factor in how you format your show. And last but not least, what is your why? Why are you doing this? What is going to keep you going? What is going to keep you passionate about this? So I can give you mine, and I can give you a focus statement to help you focus on your podcast. But if you have a title already, you can use your title. If you don't, you could just write down, my podcast is about blank. And it is for blank. So that is your what and your who. So if I were to use this focus statement for the art of letting go, I would say the art of letting go is a podcast about my personal journey through self-healing and mental health. And I would also say this podcast is for people who are on their own journeys of healing and looking for more knowledge and more information and more tools on their journey. And last but not least, the question that I feel like is most valuable: why? Why are you doing this? Why am I doing the art of letting go? And the reason I'm doing the art of letting go is because I want people to feel healed and confident in their journeys of growth while listening to mine. And if I can be a guide to anybody by sharing my experience, that is ultimately what I want to do. So, healing and growing in an authentic way, in a vulnerable way, is why I do this. So, those are some questions to think about. What is your podcast about? Who is your podcast for? Why are you doing this? So take some time to think about those, and we will get into how to format your show. All right. So now that we have an idea of the different types of podcasts that are out there, why we want to do this, what our show is going to be about, who our show is for, now we want to start thinking about the title. That's the hard part. And something I would say in thinking of the title, think of something that speaks to you or is unique to you. When I came up with the name, The Art of Letting Go, I it actually came to me. It came to me in a meditation, if I'm being completely honest with you. And my life experiences at that time, I was kind of just letting a lot of things go in therapy, making space for new things. And it just hit me. And I decided to use that as the title. Something that I didn't do, which I would like to give to you all as a tip of something to do, is to search the name of the podcast that you're thinking of doing. And it's going to be a million people with the same name, same concepts, but you want something that's kind of unique. And I was lucky enough when I started the Art of Letting Go that nobody had the name, and I've searched it up recently and I've seen about 4 or 5 podcasts with that name. But for you, take that time to look and see what's out there before you make a decision, or you're just hard set on a title of your show. Once you have the title of your show, these two things are kind of going to go together, and you're going to want to figure out, how long do you want your show to be? My show is usually about 10 or 15 minutes when I'm by myself. When I have a guest or I have a friend on the show, we usually go about 30 minutes to an hour. Through doing my show for 5 years now, and also looking at my statistics, which is something very important. Once you get into the flow of doing shows, you start getting to see patterns within your listeners. And most people listen to my show for about 30 to 35 minutes. So I try to stay within that window as much as I can. But if I'm having a really good conversation with someone, it may extend longer, because the most valuable thing is for both you and your guests to get something out of your show. Like, you want your guests to feel like they got something out of it as well. So, the conversation is very valuable to me, and people will pull from it, meaning your listeners, your audience, they will pull from it what they want to pull from it. But also, in thinking about your show length, you should also think about the flow of your show. And when I mention the flow of the show, I'm talking about the intro, the outro, the segments. And you don't have to necessarily know what you're going to say in those sections right now. That will come more into when we start recording. But you want to think about, how long do I want my intro to be? How long do I want my outro to be? If any, what segments do I want to have in the show? You don't have to have any, but for me, I do a thought of the week, a meditation, 5 questions of freedom, and I also do, I feel like I'm leaving one off, ask me a question, where my listeners ask questions. So those are 4 segments that I have in my show. And if I'm putting all of this into an hour, I have to be mindful of how much time I want to spend on each section of the show. So those are things to consider. So, while you brainstorming, think about your segments, how much each segment, how much time you want to devote. And it's okay to not be so hard pressed on the time. It's okay if you go over time or go under, but just being mindful of having something in mind of how much time you want to spend on it will give you, a guide to the flow of keeping things flowing. Also, thinking about music, thinking about sound effects. Are those things you want? Are they not? Because those are going to be things that you're going to later use in recording, and we'll touch more on that as well. But I really want you guys to think about, how long do you want your show to be? What segments do you want to put within that length? Also, what is the title of your show? Is the title already taken? And last but not least, something else that is very important, which kind of goes back to our question of who is our show for? Who is the ideal listener? And one thing to know is that this may or not be your audience, but just to have someone to be intentional about creating for, will give you some direction. So, when I created my show, I thought it was going to be for queer people of color. Um, and my show has some of that audience, but most of the people that have reached out to me that I feel like are my audience have been just Black males in general, white women with children, which is very random, but these are the people that are reaching out to me and letting me know that they're listening to my show. And I'm still being intentional about who and what I'm creating for. But if I'm able to pull all these extra people along the way, then that's amazing. So think about that audience, uh, think about the flow of that show. And next, we are going to get into recording. So we're going to talk about some equipment, um, the process of recording. So stay tuned. I know you probably been watching these videos like, God damn, when are we gonna start recording? And this is where we start. So, in order to record a podcast, you need a recording device. I wanted to be completely transparent with you all about my journey of recording and the microphones that I've used. So when I first started doing this, I was using whatever microphone was at the studio I was recording at. I didn't really know anything about them. And when I started recording on my own, the first recording device I used was this good old iPhone. So your phone has a microphone, you can record into it. And I'm just sharing this journey of recording with you all so you know that you can create at any level with any microphone, but I just wanted to share what I've used so when you make your decisions on picking your microphones. Second microphone I used was this. It's a SM58. And if you notice, it's a microphone, but there's nothing connected to it. So how do we record with this? You're going to need a recording device. So, if I'm working from home, I can use an audio interface, or you could purchase something like this. I like Zoom's products. They make field recorders where you can record out places. So if you're recording with someone somewhere, you would use that, and basically you would take a microphone cable that would connect through here and connect it to that device, which would also require a memory card to save your data. I'm sure there's some out there that don't require a memory card, but you will for sure need a recording device to use this microphone. When the pandemic hit, we were all stuck at home and I wasn't able to really connect with people in person. I invested in this. This is I forget the name of this microphone. I don't want to lie to you guys. Oh, it's a Blue Yeti. That's what it is. Blue Yeti. And it is a USB microphone. And I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a really good microphone. And this year, I upgraded to the Shure SM7B. So this is what you probably see most of the bigger shows that you watch, like you know the Breakfast Club or like any of these radio shows. I use something like this, and the sound quality is great. And just to kind of give you an idea of what you would need for your podcast, it really comes down to your budget. So I went the route of just trying microphones and upgrading microphones. And for something like this, so this SM7B, it's a great microphone, but also requires um, extra power for it. So there's a thing called a cloud lifter. And a cloud lifter is something that lifts the gain or the volume of your microphone. So the cloud lifter that I have, I can't disconnect it because it's connected right now, but it looks like this. And this is at a price point of $150 brand new. This microphone that I'm using, this SM7B, is priced at $400 brand new. So I'm just going to give you guys a couple of different price points. And I'm also going to give you guys a chance to see what these microphones sound like, so you can hear the difference of quality and also make a decision on what you would like to use. The best way to figure out what's best for you is to try different things. That is what I did. That's how I got stuck with a lot of microphones. So if you can, you know, find a way to hear them before purchasing them or test them out, definitely do so. So the PodTrack P4, this was designed to record podcasts. You have 4 input channels for microphones, so you could plug 4 microphones into it. There is I gotta look at it from the front, but there's a record function, stop. These you can program with sound effects. So if you have sound effects in your show, these are headphones, so you can plug in headphones for you and your guests to listen. Yeah, and like I said, it requires SD card, so the size and the price of that is based on your preference. But something like this will cost you roughly about $200. So in addition to having your microphone, like let's say you're using your SM58, this would be an additional $200 to use that. So like I said, there are many different price points. If you guys are ready, I will share the sound of some of these microphones so you can get a feel for what they sound like. All right. So now what I would like to do is show you guys what some of these microphones sound like. So you could already hear what this SM7B sounds like. But what we're going to do is I'm going to go to Logic. So once you start recording and you get into editing, so I'm gonna try to make this a 2-part. Let you hear what these mics sound like, but also let you know what the recording software looks and sounds like. I mean, the editing software. So for me, I edit in Logic. There are many other softwares out there. I know a free one that comes on most MacBooks is GarageBand. So you could always use GarageBand to edit. Some people can use Audacity. I've never liked Audacity, just to be honest. And I'm going to show you guys how to use Anchor. So like I said, Anchor is like your one-stop shop. And I know I sound like I'm promoting Anchor, but it's just so easy to use. So Anchor, you can edit your podcast there. You can record into the software. So we'll get into Anchor as well. But first, I wanted to show you guys what these microphones sound like. All right. So as you guys see here, this is where, recording can take place. I use this a lot for music, but I wanted to record the sounds of these microphones for you guys so you can hear what they sound like. So we'll start with the first microphone and let's see. All right. So this is our SM7B. And as I said, this is what I use the most right now, especially if I'm recording at home or virtually. I use it for music as well. It's a really clean mic. And I'm also showing you guys these recordings with no EQ on them. I did put a little compression on it. And, that is something that is way deeper as far as like audio mixing. So don't worry about any of that stuff right now. But, yeah, this is what this microphone sounds like. It's $400, as I said before. And yeah, it's my favorite mic. All right. So that's what that sounds like. Now I want to share the SM58 with you guys. So like I said, the SM58 is, well, you'll hear it in the recording. All right. So now, and you might be able to hear a difference in the recording in general, but I have my SM58 connected. This is the $100 mic. So this is our SM7. No, this is our SM58. So if you are listening right now, this is the microphone that I use when I'm recording outside. Sometimes I use it at home, and actually I bought these microphone covers because my P's and my B's, if you hear that popping sound, we'll see if we hear a difference when I add the microphone cover. And all of this is great to get some of this extra sound, because when we do our editing, you'll be able to get a better idea of what it's like to cut sound and cut things out or leave things in. And this is our SM58. Now that we got that out the way, I want to use our cell phone so you can hear what that cell phone audio sounds like. So I'm going to actually record a little bit on my cell phone, and then I'll just import the audio into the session so that you all can hear it. All right. So I recorded a little audio on my iPhone, and I want to see how it sounds. So this is with no recording device, no extra microphones, literally just the iPhone. So, you know, like I said, you don't need equipment. If you can't afford it right now, don't let that stop you from doing a podcast. Get this shit done. All right. So this is an iPhone recording. You can see, I'm sure you probably hear a lot of the stuff that's in the background of my room, but essentially it's a recording device. It's something that you can record your podcast on. You can upload it, you can edit it. So, if you don't have the equipment right now, don't let that stop you. Try out your phone and make it happen. That's the iPhone. And last but not least, we have the Blue Yeti, which is our USB microphone. So now we'll check that one out. All right, y'all. So now we are going to try out our Blue Yeti. So I want you to hear what this sounds like. This is the USB mic. All right. So this is the Blue Yeti. It is $100. It's very sensitive. Like, I could tap the table and you could hear some of the sound. But I think overall, for a $100 mic, $120 mic with no extra setup, I think it's a pretty good mic to start with. Like I said, it got me through the pandemic. It built my audience, and I checked today and we were at 98,000 listeners in 2 years. So this is a reliable mic if you're trying to do that. Let's see how that sounds. That's cap, y'all. As the young people would say, that's cap. 98,000 listens, not listeners. I wish I had 98,000 listeners. Oh, look at my draws in the background. That's hilarious. Hey, this is real, man. This is the real deal. Got my draws laying in the background. Oh shit. But yeah. So you guys get an idea of what some of these microphones sound like. And I can show you some basic editing. And actually, what I would like to show you guys is some editing done through Anchor, just so you can see how Anchor is used, and it'll give you an idea with some of the other editing softwares that you may use. So hold tight. I'm gonna put my drawers away, and then we will go to our next section. All right, y'all. So now we got our recording out of the way. We know a little bit about microphones. And once we have our recording, we can start to edit. So, like I said, editing depends really on what software you want to use. I'm gonna show you guys the easiest way to do it, in my opinion, especially if you're just starting out. I would say to use Anchor. So again, I am not sponsored by Anchor, but I would love to be. But Anchor is kind of like the one-stop shop for everything. You can record in Anchor, so it has this feature where you can record directly. You can record your episode here, and it would add it to your library, and your library would be all of your recordings. So I'm just for the purposes of showing you a quick edit, I am going to take 3 of these. So if you notice, there's 3. So let's say, like I told you guys, you can record different segments of your show if you added them all. So if you uploaded them and let's say they were out of order, you could move them to the order they're supposed to fit in. But the cool thing about Anchor is that you can edit your audio on the website. So let's say you wanted to cut a part out of your episode. So let's say I split it there and I split here. And I wanted to delete this part. So you can simply delete it like that. And then, it will move this closer to there. But just to kind of give you an idea of how to edit your show. Yeah, so that's basically what I wanted to show you guys, is that you could do it all in Anchor. And once you're done editing and your episode is in order, you upload it and it goes to all of the streaming services that are out there. So you don't have to worry about anything but promoting it. All right. So we got the toughest part done, which is recording and editing our podcast. And now that we've got through that step, our final step of getting this podcast to the world is to find a company to host or publish a podcast. Who are you going to release it through? So I started out with SoundCloud. SoundCloud was very easy to use. It was free. The only downfall for me was with SoundCloud was that it didn't distribute to all of the streaming platforms. So I had to manually share my RSS feed with these companies. And sometimes that can be a little challenging if you don't know what you're doing. So for me, I switched over to Anchor. Anchor simplified the entire process. You sign up, and this is not an Anchor ad, although we'll get into Anchor ads in a minute. But Anchor got my podcast on all the streaming services with just one click of a button. All I had to say was publish, and they ask who you want it to go out to, and they get your podcast on all the streaming services. I know YouTube, if you're doing video, is a good source, but now with Anchor being that they're owned by Spotify, you can upload video onto Anchor and it'll go to Spotify as well. So just something to consider when you're trying to decide who you want to release your podcast through. And trust me, there are other companies out there. I think Buzzsprout and there's a couple of other companies out there. So just do your research, see what you like. Like I'm telling you what works for me, but you may find a product out there that's better for you. So check it out. And now to my favorite part, the valuable tools and tips that I learned in my journey of podcasting. So today I'm releasing episode 176. By the time this course comes out, I'm not sure what episode I would be at. But the first tip that I wanted to give you guys for success is to create a schedule. And when I say create a schedule, I'm talking about create a schedule for recording, create a schedule for releasing. And you can create your marketing schedule and stuff later, but really try to stay consistent with your recording schedules and your releasing schedules. I used to record my episodes on Mondays and release them on Fridays. And sticking to those, whether you feel like it or not, will just help you build consistency, help you build up your catalog. Don't expect to come out of the gate knowing exactly what you want to do. And I say that because if you go back and listen to my first episode to where my show is today, over time it has evolved to become this, but that took me consistently doing the same things to recognize, okay, I like doing this or I don't like doing that. So, in staying consistent, you will find your own flow and you will build your audience. You will see your show grow from those 2 listeners to 200 to 2000, you know. So, think about your recording schedule. How often are you going to be recording? Stick to that same day and record on that same day if possible. Also, consistency. Once people start listening to your podcast, if you're releasing on Wednesdays, they're going to look for those episodes every Wednesday. If you're releasing every 2 weeks, people are going to look for that consistency. So make sure you're staying consistent. And I promise that will keep you inspired in doing your show, because then you have these goals and these deadlines to hit every every week or every month, or however frequent you release your show, or even if you're doing like a season, like you just know what you're doing. So create that plan. Also, another tool that is really important is social media and marketing. you know we make these shows because we want people to hear them. So remember that when you are producing your show, get it out to people, put it on social media, have fun with the social media marketing, like, think out of the box. Something that I've been doing is releasing freestyles, rap freestyles of like summaries of my episodes, and it's actually been drawing people to listen. Taking clips from your episode. That's another thing that Anchor is really good with. We may have to do a whole separate Anchor tutorial, but chopping up clips from your episode to share, just to let people know, hey, this is what we're talking about on the episode. Also a tool that I utilized in the beginning of my podcast was text messaging and emails. You could post all day on social media, but if you think about how much content you're fed, know that that's going to happen with yours as well. So, a lot of people may miss your posts. It may not even be about, your show or what you're posting. People may just miss it because there's just so much being thrown at us at one time. So what I would recommend is creating that personal text, that personal connection. And our phones are, you know, our biggest flyer. When people used to pass out flyers back in the day, some of y'all might be too young for that, but you know, it's a digital flyer within your hand. Like I hold my phone, I was looking for my phone, but I hold my phone. You send something to me right now, I'm going to see it. So you send that link to people, you send them out every week, send as many as you can, personalizing it, letting people know, hey, I just put out this podcast, check it out, let me know what you think. Same with the emails. Also, if you are using and shit, not even just a field recorder, but anytime you're recording, this is another tip, make sure that you hit record. It's been a couple of times where I've thought I was recording really good episodes and they didn't record, and that's just a mistake and a lesson that you learn. So always make sure that you're recording. Also, make sure you have backup equipment. Make sure you have something back up to record. If you're doing the virtual, I know you're kind of limited on the resources of backing up, because I mean I've had times where the internet wasn't working at my place and I had to connect to my phone to use internet, and used up all my hotspot, which is okay. But if you're recording with someone face to face, and let's say, you're having trouble, with your computer or with your recording devices, have your phone, record it with your phone. You know, don't ever waste the opportunity because you think that you can't do it. Just still do it. Get it done. And last but not least, the most important is to have fun. Have fun with this. you know Take it serious, but have fun. Find your joy within it and tap into that, because that's what's going to really keep you going. That's the secret that a lot of these people don't tell you, is that in order to really keep your podcast going, you got to be having fun. Because if you're not having fun, you're not going to want to do it. So explore, 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 explore. Try new things. Don't be so hard set on what it has to be, because it's going to get there. You know, I know all of us have amazing ideas of where we want our shows to go, what we want them to be, and they will be that with time, with practice, with building that up, that consistency. So stick with it, have fun, and I can't wait to hear all these amazing podcasts. Thank y'all so much for taking this course with me. I was gonna say tuning in, because I feel like it's a podcast the way we've done it. And I might just release the audio as a podcast just to show you guys how easy it is to set up a podcast episode. But thank you again for showing up and taking this course. I hope it helps you along your journey. Um, if you guys would like to connect with me more, if you have any questions, you can always reach out at the Art of Letting Go podcast at gmail.com. Also, you can reach out at the Art of Letting Go podcast on social media. Get in touch with me, www.theartoflettinggopodcast.com. I know it's a lot of art of letting go, but that's where I'm at. And also be on the lookout for some more courses. Some of you might have purchased one-on-one mentoring sessions. So, after you've taken the class, if you'd like to get some further mentoring from me, I do one-on-one mentoring sessions for podcasting. Also, be on the lookout for some more courses. If you follow me on TikTok, I think it's the Art of Letting Go podcast there as well. I'll be giving out some tips. I just want to see you guys be successful. And in the words of one of my favorite artists, you can do it too. Thank y'all, and happy potting.